Monday, May 2nd, 2022. And we have a lot to cover today. So Sunday's show was jam-packed, and we talked some toward the end of the show. Actually, we did not get a chance to get to the story about the Bank of England discovering it owned 599 slaves in Grenada in the 1770s. We'll talk about that toward the end of the show. But for the majority of the show, I want to deal with this story dealing with the Tulsa Race Massacre survivors. And they were in court today, and a judge ruled that their case could move forward, and they are suing for reparations. Okay, the three survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. We're going to talk about this on today's show. We know on Good Morning America on Sunday, May 1st, they did a story about this. Demario Solomon Simmons, who is a co-panelist with me on Roland Martin Unfiltered, he is the attorney, or at least one of the attorneys for the three survivors. So this was a good day today in court. We know there was a article from CNN.com about this. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, dealing with this story. Okay. And I said we'll talk about it on today's show. The plaintiffs in a lawsuit seeking reparations for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre celebrated a judge's ruling on Monday, May 2nd, when the judge allowed their case to move forward after defendants sought a motion to dismiss the case. After defendants sought a motion to dismiss the case. Okay, so this is good news so far. We know that in 2021 was the 100th year commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Okay, the 100th year commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre. We know also that President Joe Biden, when he went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, so we know that he did a proclamation declaring June 1st a National Day of Remembrance and Commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre. You can read the proclamation at whitehouse.gov because it goes into the history of what happened and what was destroyed. And it also talks about systemic racism against African Americans, things like this. We dealt with this on the show. On this show at the time that it happened. Associated Press also has a story on this. Judge lets Tulsa Race Massacre reparations lawsuit proceed. All right, so we're going to discuss this today, and then we'll also get to the story toward the end of the show dealing with the Bank of England discovers it owned 599 slaves in Grenada in the 1770s after claiming it was never directly involved in the trade. So, on our Sunday show and last Thursday, we dealt with the story with Harvard University and the 134-page study that Harvard released on Tuesday, April 26th, that dealt with people connected to Harvard University and past presidents and faculty, things like this, owning 79 enslaved people in the 1700s and 1800s, okay, connected to Harvard University. And then we see the story in court today dealing with the survivors, the three survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. All right. So, three branches of the federal government, okay, legislative, which is the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, executive branch, which is the White House, and judicial branch of the federal government, which are the courts, federal court, federal appeals court, U.S. Supreme Court. As I was explaining to people the past few years and during the 2016 election, elections have consequences, and it's the U.S. Senate that confirms Supreme Court justices. It confirms federal judges. The president nominates them, but the Supreme Court, but the U.S. Senate confirms federal judges and Supreme Court judges. Okay, and if you look at the story from Politico that came out today that is shaking up everybody, shaking up a lot of people. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today. I'm going to wait for the actual ruling to come down. But if you look at the story that dropped from Politico.com late this evening, dealing with the Mississippi abortion ban and how the Supreme Court, this is a draft opinion that Politico got a hold to, that is a draft opinion, majority draft opinion of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights, draft opinion shows. According to this draft opinion by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, conservative, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. All I can say is I warned people back in 2016 during the presidential election that this is about the courts, this is about the federal court and the U.S. Supreme Court. People said we don't like that beat. I said it ain't about that. It's about understanding the trajectory of this country. Okay. So if Republicans are going to take away constitutional rights from white women, who you think they're going to go after next? If Republicans are going to take away a constitutional right from white women, who do you think they're going to go after next? We have to understand political self-defense. All right. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct your own behavior. It's not over. Right now, it's correct your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now we deal with a number of different topics here. The African History Network show, we deal with current events, history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter, or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And also we have the new documentary from director Amadeus Christ, Heavy is the Crown. We have that available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We also have it in a bundle pack where you get the documentary and some of my lectures in a bundle pack for $100 as well. So I talked to Amadeus today, so we're going to be a distributor of the documentary. I distributed his previous documentary, Out of Darkness, and myself and Professor James Small, Professor Kabahaya Walter Kamene, we actually were involved in a screening that Amadeus did of the movie here in Detroit a few years ago of Out of Darkness. So we have Heavy is the Crown available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. Okay, so I want to jump into this first story here from CNN.com. CNN has an extensive article on this, and calling number is 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. It's a call-in number if you have a question or comment. If you attended the One Africa Power and Unity Conference, Saturday, April 30th, Sunday, May 1st here in Detroit, you can give us a call. Let us know about your experience as well. Tulsa Race Massacre Reparations lawsuit survives motion to deny and will move forward, judge rules. Tulsa Race Massacre reparations lawsuit survives motion and will move forward, judge rules. Okay, now the plaintiffs in a lawsuit seeking reparations for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre celebrated the judge's ruling on Monday, May 2nd, when the judge allowed their case to move forward after defendants sought a motion to dismiss the case. Judge Caroline Wall said the motion to dismiss was granted in part and denied in part, which essentially allows the case to proceed, but it's unclear what will happen next, including details on a potential trial, according to Michael Schwartz, one of the attorneys for the plaintiffs. Now, the plaintiffs' attorneys pleaded Monday afternoon for the judge to allow the case to move forward so the survivors and descendants of victims from the Tulsa Race Massacre could have their day in court, potentially their last chance to get some semblance of justice. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. All right, let's see who we have here. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. All right. So if you how's everybody doing? If you can if you're watching this broadcast, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like, post here on social media so we know that you're watching. Back from break in 1 minute. Okay, you can still register for the online history class I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement of Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Back from break in 1 minute.
African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about what happened in court today in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is involving the three survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So Judge Caroline Wall ruled in a motion, said in a motion to dismiss. She ruled against the motion to dismiss and said that the motion to dismiss was granted in part and denied in part which essentially allows the case to proceed, the case of the three plaintiffs to proceed, but it's unclear what will happen next, including details on a potential trial, according to Michael Swartz, one of the attorneys for the plaintiffs. Okay, now the plaintiffs' attorneys pleaded Monday afternoon for the judge to allow the case to move forward, so the survivors' descendants. So the survivors and descendants of victims from the massacre could have their day in court, potentially their last chance to get some semblance of justice. A packed courtroom erupted in cheers and applause at the judge's ruling, including three remaining survivors who are all over 100 years old and were in the courtroom for the hours-long hearing. All right. So we know that the attack took place January 1st, 1921, and there were a sequence of incidents that led up to the attack January 1st, 1921. An estimated 300 people were killed within the district's 35 square blocks, burning to the ground more than 1,200 homes, at least 60 businesses, dozens of churches, a school, a hospital, and a public library, according to a report issued by Human Rights Watch. At least $1.4 million in damages, at least $1.4 million in damages were claimed after the Tulsa Race Massacre, or about $25 million in today's dollars, after controlling for inflation and the current economy. Okay, and this is from an article that came out May 28th, 2021 from NBCnews.com that deals with the Tulsa Race Massacre 100 years later, why it happened and why it's still relevant today. All right, so I want to go to clip number one here. You're going to hear Mother Fletcher, Mother Viola Ford Fletcher, who's 107 years old. She's one of the three survivors. You're going to hear it in this interview from Good Morning America from Sunday morning, May 1st, 2022. And this is the day before they had their day in court. Let's go to clip number one, please, Shakita.
Right for descendants and survivors of the infamous Tulsa Race Massacre 100 years ago. An important court date tomorrow could be critical as they seek justice. ABC's Steve Osentani has more.
Tell me about. She's the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921.
My name is Viola Ford Fletcher, 107 years old.
And this morning, she's hoping that a judge in Oklahoma will allow a lawsuit she's a part of to move forward. The hearing is Monday afternoon.
Is it safe to say you are pushing, you and the other survivors are pushing for payments?
Yes, whatever it takes to replace our loss. Yes.
In your lifetime?
Yes, sir. While I'm living.
In many households across this country, they put respect on her name and call her Mother Fletcher because of what she's overcome. She and two other survivors still living are suing the city of Tulsa, their sheriff, and other authorities for damages that are more than 100 years old. When she was just a child, she and her family ran for their lives after a mob of their white neighbors destroyed the Greenwood district, known to many as Black Wall Street, one of the most prosperous Black communities in America.
That night, when we were surrounded by the parents, what was going on, all the shooting and killing and fires and airplanes, people screaming, people lying on the streets bleeding.
In the lawsuit, her attorney argues that the destruction of Black homes and public executions of Black people were allowed by authorities, and that those authorities can now be sued under a state public nuisance law. They're suing for a victims' compensation fund that could potentially mean hundreds of millions of dollars.
I'm not the judge, but I do believe that the law and the facts are on our side.
A similar effort to go after drug makers for the state's opioid crisis recently failed. And Tulsa's mayor, who led the effort to help find missing Black victims from the massacre, is against having today's taxpayers pay for yesterday's crimes and wants the judge to dismiss the lawsuit.
And I'm also opposed to levying a tax on this generation of Tulsans who are at no fault.
Mother Fletcher says she's running out of time to see justice for her family. She turns 108 years old on May 10th. For Good Morning America, Steve Lissantoni, ABC News, Atlanta.
Okay, so pause it right there. Okay, we're going to go to clip number 2 from CBS News here in just a second, Shakita. Okay, so that was from Sunday morning. May 1st, 2022. Good Morning America. If we go back to this article here from CNN.com. So Hugh Van Ellis, who is the younger brother to Mother Viola Fletcher, he said, "I've never seen nothing like this happen." He said of the Tulsa Race Massacre, who told CNN he never lost hope. He said that means it's going to change things, it's going to make people think, it's going to change, it's going to be better for everybody. Hugh Van Ellis said, who's also called Uncle Red. Now, this lawsuit was filed in March of 2021 and looks to not only set the record straight on what took place between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, but also create a special fund for survivors and descendants of the massacre that left at least 300 people dead and the once booming neighborhood of Greenwood destroyed. So Greenwood was the business district, and the intersection where it began was Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. It's believed this is where the Gap Band gets their name from, because they're from Tulsa, Oklahoma also. The Gap Band, you drop the bomb on me, burn rubber, early in the morning. Charlie Wilson, the Gap Band. Now, on top of all of this, attorneys for the plaintiffs are racing against the clock. 3 of their clients are more than 100 years old, as you heard in the piece from Good Morning America, including 100-year-old Hugh Van Ellis. Viola Fletcher is 107 right now. She turns 108 May 10th. And Leslie Benningfield Randall is 107 years old also. Now, there's you heard the callousness of the defense attorney, with a white defense attorney. Land was taken through eminent domain that belonged to African Americans in Tulsa. Land was taken by the county and taken by the state. So you, on the one hand, say that people today in Tulsa, you're basically talking about white people in Tulsa, should not have to pay for the sins of their forefathers, yet they benefit from the ownership of land that was taken from African Americans. Then you have the mayor of Tulsa, and the mayor of Tulsa, on Joanne Reed's show today, the Readout, they did she had Demario Simmons on also, and attorney Demario Simmons, and she played a clip. I was trying to see if MSNBC uploaded the excerpt from Joanne Reed's show today, because she played a clip that we played on this show before, when Tiffany Cross interviewed the white mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's a Republican, and he's the descendant of slave owners. He's the descendant of slave owners. His family owned collectively something like over 900 African slaves, going back to about 1655, something like that. Okay, now he's against, and I'm going to pull up this graphic that I put together. I'm going to try to find that clip here, if not today, tomorrow. Try to find the original clip, the Tiffany Cross interview she did. Okay, but I put together this graphic right here, and I'm gonna let's look at one of these. Which one we want to go to? Yeah, Mayor G.T. Bynum. Mayor G.T. Bynum of Tulsa. Okay, so if we pull this up right here, Now, he's against paying reparations to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. He's against any type of reparations to the North Tulsa, where the African Americans live. His family collectively owned, over decades, collectively owned 931 African slaves. Mayor G.T. Bynum, Republican, white mayor of Tulsa. But strangely, he's against reparations, but his family profited from the enslavement of African people, and he gained a lot of his wealth, he gained a lot of his positioning in life because of the legacy of slavery and the wealth his family accumulated. But he's against reparations for the three survivors of Tulsa, or the three survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre who are still alive, and against any type of reparations for the people who still live in Tulsa right now. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. All right, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show. All right, and we have the information at our website, also AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Back from break in 3 minutes. We also have the information right here on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, stand by, everybody. How long is this clip? Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Let's just play the whole clip. We're going to go with the whole clip. Let's roll with this.
910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, if you like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show, SHOW. It's the only Cash App account we have. There's some fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there. I'm trying to get shut down, and Cash App has launched an investigation. When you go to ours, it says Michael and shows my picture there. and our tag is $ the AHN show, SHOW. We have the information on the homepage of our website, and it has our link there and the yellow PayPal button to support us. You can also register for the new 10-week online class we have that just started up, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Class number 1 was Saturday, April 23rd. If you missed it, not a problem. As soon as you register, you can watch class number 1. There's bonus content there. You can join us in class live Saturday, May 7th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. If you missed the class, you can go back and watch it anytime. Okay. If you missed the class, you can go back and watch it anytime also. All right. And even a year, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire course. It's on sale $80, regularly $130. Okay, Shakita, I found the clip here from Tiffany Cross's show because I have it in my archives here. I'm going to send it to you here in just a second. Cue that up because we're going to go to that clip after we go to clip 2. And you're going to hear Tiffany Cross speak with the white mayor of Tulsa, Republican mayor of Tulsa, Mayor G.T. Bynum, whose family collectively owned 931 African slaves. You're going to hear him make the rationale for not paying reparations to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. This is an example of how elections have consequences. And this ties into the Supreme Court ruling that's coming down on abortion. And if it's the way that it looks like what's being leaked to Samuel Alito's Supreme Court Justice Alito's majority opinion, okay, they're at least going to strike it down federally, but they'll leave it at on a state by state basis. But as I said at the beginning of the show, okay, if Republicans, and this is why people don't understand why elections are so important, especially presidential elections, and then midterm elections, especially dealing with the U.S. Senate, because presidents nominate federal judges and Supreme Court justices, and the Senate confirms federal judges and Supreme Court justices. Donald Trump got 226 federal judges confirmed, and he got 3 Supreme Court justices confirmed. And the judicial branch of the federal government interprets law from the legislative branch of the federal government and the executive branch. So the judicial branch can strike down laws or uphold laws that are passed by the legislative branch of the federal government, U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives. And they interpret law and policies from the executive branch of the federal government. So if Republicans are going to take away a constitutional right from white women, who do you think they're going to go after next? If Republicans are going to take away a constitutional right from white women, who do you think they're going to go after next? Okay, so let's go to clip number 2. Now, this is from CBS News today after the judge made her ruling on the motion to dismiss. After Judge Caroline Wall made her motion, ruled on her motion to dismiss. Let's go to clip number 2, please, Shakita.
Some breaking news in the century-long fight for justice for the last known survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. A judge has ruled they can make their case to hold the city accountable. CBS's Omar Villafranca has the late developing details.
The last 3 survivors entered court for what could be a last effort to force the city of Tulsa to pay reparations for a 1921 massacre that killed an estimated 300 Black residents.
We know what happened 100 years ago, and it is time for the city of Tulsa to do what's right and stand on the right side of history.
The survivors, Viola Fletcher, Leslie Benningfield Randall, and Hughes Van Ellis, are all more than 100 years old. They were small children living in the Greenwood section of town known as Black Wall Street, a thriving Black community in the middle of the Jim Crow era. In 1921, a young Black man was accused of assaulting a white teenage girl. A white mob, including members of the Tulsa Sheriff's Department, torched roughly 35 blocks of homes and businesses, nearly wiping out the city's Black residents.
The night of the massacre, I was awakened by my family.
Now 107, Viola Fletcher saw her community torn apart by that white mob.
Well, I think about it every day. I think it'll be something I'll never forget.
No one was ever held accountable for what happened that day. And the lawsuit alleges that the defendants' exploitation of death, destruction, and disparities they created have resulted in their unjust enrichment at the expense of these communities. The city is arguing it should not be forced to pay anything because today's residents had nothing to do with what happened more than a century ago. Just minutes ago, the judge partially ruled for the plaintiffs. A trial will take place. That means the 3 remaining survivors will get a chance to make their case against the city of Tulsa for reparations. No trial date has been set. Nora?
As it's been said, the arc of history bends towards justice. Omar Villafranca, thank you.
Okay. So that is they as Demario Solomon Simmons said today on the Readout with Joanne Reed. They're still alive. The lawsuit continues. They stay alive. The lawsuit stays alive so they can fight another day. Okay. Now, many people remember, and we definitely talked about it here on this show. Many people remember when President Joe Biden went to Tulsa during the 100th commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre to deliver an address, right? And it was covered media all across the country, outside the country probably as well. Here is, I have all this stuff archived. Here is live updates from the Washington Post back during that time. And let me try to close some of this stuff out here. Okay, here's live updates from back at that time. This is from the Washington Post, okay? Let me see here. Let's pull this up. Okay, Biden commemorates the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Biden commemorates the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So they go through and they talk about this. Now, they also, the proclamation that he did is also on whitehouse.gov. We're going to try to squeeze that in, go to that in just a minute. It's important for everybody to read that. What a lot of people missed that Biden announced while he was in Tulsa is this right here. While in Oklahoma, Biden promoted initiatives to reduce the Black wealth gap. Okay, and we know he tapped Vice President Kamala Harris to push for voting rights, but people missed this policy initiative that Joe Biden talked about. Now, we talked about it here on this show, okay? If you look at the article here from Axios.com, this one here from June 1st, 2021, Biden unveils plans to combat racial wealth gap on anniversary of Tulsa Race Massacre. How many people knew about this? President Biden will announce new actions on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021, aimed at closing the racial wealth gap as he commemorates the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Okay. Biden will unveil the policies during a visit to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a white mob destroyed America's wealthiest Black neighborhood in 1921. Biden would deliver. Okay, the initiatives will target home ownership and small business ownership. Home ownership and small business ownership, which the White House called 2 key wealth creators for communities of color. Quote, because disparities in wealth compound like an interest rate, the disinvestment in Black families in Tulsa and across the country throughout our history is still felt sharply today, the White House said in a statement. The Department of Housing and Urban Development will publish 2 new rules that will, quote, align federal enforcement practice, end quote, with the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and provide a legal framework for HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, to require public and private entities, quote, to rethink established practices that contribute to or perpetuate inequities, end quote. President Biden will also direct HUD Secretary Marshall Fudge to lead an interagency effort to address inequities in housing appraisals, using, quote, potential enforcement under fair housing laws, regulatory action, and development of standards and guidance, end quote. Now, the administration said it will increase the share of federal contracts directed to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% by the year 2026. They're going to increase the share of federal contracts directed to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% by the year 2026, so over the course of 5 years, seeking to lower barriers to entry and allow more traditionally underserved entrepreneurs to compete. Now, some people may say, oh, well, they're talking about minorities and things like this, etc. What I say, as somebody who actually managed an African-American owned business that had contracts with the city of Detroit, the county of Wayne, and the state of Michigan, and we were certified minority vendors and got extra points on the score sheet when you bid on contracts because of certifications we had. We should focus on being the majority of the quote unquote minorities getting the business. We should focus on being the majority of the quote unquote minorities getting the business, because based upon the 1964 Civil Rights Act, it's illegal to pass laws that discriminate against different ethnic groups, races, things like this. You can't have laws that are only for one race of people. You can have laws that focus on minorities. When they have money like this in contracts, we should be focusing on being the majority of the minorities getting the money. As Frank Lucas said in American Gangster, I'm going to get that money. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, when we come back from break, I'm going to play the clip from the interview that Tiffany Cross did with Mayor G.T. Bynum of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's going to explain why he's against reparations for the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Okay, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. And then register for the 10-week online class that I teach on Saturdays. As soon as you register, you can watch class number 1. And remember, you can order the new documentary, Heavy is the Crown, from our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, from director Amadeus Christ. And it features Professor James Small, Professor Kabahai Watha Kamene, David Banner, Tony Browder, other scholars. Back from break in 3 minutes. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Okay, I want to go to read that piece from Axios.com, and you had Andre Perry, who said from the Brookings Institute, he said this was a good initiative. Yes, we know African Americans need more than just this, but this was a good initiative. This was a good start coming from the Biden-Harris administration. Also, this ties into this goes back to what we talked about on Sunday's show, and it goes back to the Executive Order 13985, and we see that represented. We're going to clip number 4, Shakita, that I sent you from MSNBC. We're going to that in just a second here, so cue that up, please. It goes back to the executive order dealing with racial equity. Read this article here from thegrio.com that came out April 14th, 2022. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equity. Okay, Biden-Harris administration.
COVID-19.
Biden-Harris administration. Hate all these ads. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equity. Okay, this was April 14th, 2022, and the Biden-Harris administration on Thursday, and I think that was Thursday, April 13th. Let me see, April 14th, unveiled a massive government-wide action plan to advance racial equity across 90 federal agencies, with more than 300 strategies and commitments laid out by government leaders. Read this. They have the information at whitehouse.gov also dealing with that. And that goes back to fulfilling one of the 10 executive orders Biden did on day one in office, January 20th, 2021. Which was Executive Order 13985. Executive Order 13985. Let's go to this clip here quickly. This is from Tiffany Cross's show on MSNBC, and this is during the Tulsa Race Massacre 100th commemoration. It's from May 29th, 2021. The impact of the Tulsa Massacre 100 years later. Let's go to this clip, please. Take it off mute.
Role for white people to have a place in this conversation.
Right.
I want you to take a listen. I was able to speak with Mayor G.T. Bynum. He is the Republican mayor here.
Is that the beginning of the clip?
You have a very interesting report that we'll talk about on the other side, but I asked him about his own connection to racism and enslavement in this country. I want you to take a listen. With you specifically, the Bynum family, I'm sure you know, enslaved nearly 1,000 people. And you inherited that wealth from the family, where the African Americans here in the community had their wealth taken from them. So when you say no cash payouts, I think people look at it and say, well, wow, you inherited wealth, you inherited your position in life because of enslaving people who look like me. How do you reconcile saying, yeah, but that was then, and we don't owe you anything for that now?
Because you're asking me about reparations for an event that was a criminal act 100 years ago.
Right. But something that your family benefited from, the system of enslavement, of systemic racism. So can you imagine how the descendants of the enslaved look at your position in life compared to their own, and hear you say, well, no, cash payouts make people uncomfortable? I assume you mean the white people of Tulsa and people who... All right, so I should note that we did get a response from the mayor's office, and he says he doesn't know anything about this, and did not really address, as you see in my question, his own family's connection to enslavement. But you were the reporter to uncover this, so talk a bit, if you will, about what you uncovered, and if you will, respond to what he said.
Wow, I am blown away by his response. We want to reconcile, right? We had a race war here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the seeds of that horrible behavior were born in institutional slavery. And here's the thing about Mayor G.T. Bynum's family that we found out. First of all, when you come from wealth, when you come from a powerful political family, you have your history is thoroughly recorded. And so, what we found is that at the end of the 1860 slave schedule, Mayor G.T. Bynum's family, the descendants of the first Bynums that came to Jamestown in 1616, they had a total of 931 enslaved people. And so you think about that wealth. You think about, as a descendant, my family only had 56 years to build our wealth from 1865 to 1921. Just 56 years.
Right.
His family had from 1619 or from 1666, when we have confirmed, slave involvement in his family, all the way to 1865. Just think about that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to just say the other thing that's important to note is the history of mayors in his family as well. So let's also be clear that there is an economic and a political connection to the continued oppression and the privilege for white folks, right? So as we sit in the heart of Greenwood right now, we're sitting in an area where Black people don't own any of the buildings. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like in 1921, we owned this entire area. We don't own anything here now.
Okay,
that's
pause it right there.
That we could
Pause
resolve
right there,
through policy.
Shakita.
That's something that must
Pause
be
right
resolved
there.
through policy to get back to the heart of your first question,
Stop
Trinity,
the
right?
club.
Like, and it needs to happen at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. They're not even willing to do that. They set up a commission here that raised $30 million, and they can't find a penny of that to go to the survivors or to even ensure economic development that benefits Black people.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, that was Angela Rye you heard speaking last. That was Nehemiah Frank, who talked about the disingenuousness and Mayor G.T. Bynum acting stupid about paying reparations to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre and to those who live in Tulsa after his family profited and built their wealth from enslaving 931 African people. And then also you have Dr. I forgot his name, the other brother there. But anyway, so that was from May 29, 2021. Read this article here, Jelani Cobb. Read this article here from the Washington Post, okay? Now, you have some people that don't do research and say Biden went there to tell the people what they already knew. It was people, news media from all across the country. A lot of people did not know about the history of the Tulsa Race Massacre. This is why you got to do research before you come here with idiotic comments showing that you have no clue what you're talking about. Read this article also from June 1st, 2021. At Tulsa event, Biden announces Harris will lead push for voting protections in response to state's recent ballot restrictions. This is from Washington Post. It talks about also what I just laid out, has a response dealing with the wealth building component. Has a response from Derek Johnson, and Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP, and Derek Johnson said, he said this was a good start, but he said it doesn't address student loan forgiveness. Well, looks like that's about to happen also. We'll talk about this some more tomorrow's show. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, stand by. Okay, read this right here. Read this because I can tell when people make dumbass comments and don't read, have no clue what they're talking about. All right. Derek Johnson of the NAACP right here. Components of the plan are encouraging, but it fails to address the student loan debt crisis that disproportionately affects, how many, let's close this out. Hold on. Okay, that disproportionately, I gotta close out some of these tabs. That disproportionately affects African Americans, said Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP. That's that. First of all, already, as we talked about last week, the Department of Education has already discharged over $17 billion in student loan debt for over 700,000 people. And in March 1st, 2022, as we see in the article from it was either Forbes or Fortune, because of the public service student loan forgiveness program, the changes made to that, up to another 1 million people can have their student loans forgiven based upon working in the public sector. Okay. Thousands of jobs qualify. This article here from March 1st, 2022 from Forbes.com. Okay. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. How many people read this? Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. March 1st, 2022, Forbes.com. And this deals with under a temporary expansion of key federal student loan forgiveness program for public service workers. Thousands of jobs will qualify and 1 million borrowers may ultimately benefit. Okay, so they go through the key details. It could be teachers, city employees, all different types of things like this. This is changes made to the public service loan forgiveness program, and it can wipe out the federal student debt for borrowers committed to public service careers. PCLF was established in 2007, but its original eligibility rules were complex and poorly communicated to borrowers. PCLF restricted student loan forgiveness to borrowers with direct program federal student loans only. Other types of federal student loans were excluded. The program also required borrowers to repay their loans under an income-driven repayment plan, leaving out borrowers who were making payments under most other plans. Last October 2021, the Biden-Harris administration announced a broad, temporary, new initiative to expand PCLF relief called the Limited PCLF Waiver. The expansion will allow borrowers to get credit for periods of repayment that would not have qualified under the original PCLF rules. This includes past payments made on non-direct federal loans like FFEL loans and Perkins loans, as well as payments made under non-qualifying repayment plans. According to the Biden-Harris administration, 70,000 borrowers have already received $5 billion in student loan forgiveness under the waiver. Now, that's just part of the overall over $17 billion that has been forgiven for over 700,000 borrowers since January 2021 under the Biden-Harris administration. Read the rest of this here, okay? Read the rest of this here. Then you have the piece from the other article from Forbes.com. This is from, what's the date on this? February 21st, 2022, okay? This one right here, because there's student loan forgiveness going on right now, okay? A lot of people just are not talking a whole lot about it. But you read these articles, and we've been sharing these articles here on the show, the student loan forgiveness has already happened under the Biden-Harris administration, and more people can get student loan forgiveness before an executive order, before anything like that is taking place right now. Now, this other article here from February 21st, 2022, Biden's student loan forgiveness now tops 16 billion after newest wave of approvals. And one of the groups that have been getting student loan forgiveness are people who were victims of predatory colleges. predatory colleges disproportionately targeted African Americans and Latinos. Another group are people who suffer from disabilities and was saddled with student loan debt. You know anybody gets SSI checks? Okay, that includes us as well. The Biden administration has now approved at least $16 billion in student loan forgiveness. It's over 17 billion now. It's over 17 billion now. This was February 21st, 2022, when this article came out. According to the Department of Education, following last week's announcement of newly approved eligible borrowers, Biden's targeted student loan forgiveness. The $16 billion in student loan cancellation approved so far reflects the Biden administration's targeted approach to wiping out student debt. Officials are trying to ease access to existing student loan forgiveness programs by relaxing program requirements, expediting approvals, and expanding the pools of eligible voters. So this article came out before the one came out that came out March 1st, 2022, about the changes to the public service loan forgiveness program that opens it up to an additional 1 million people having their student loans forgiven. Okay, so while people wait on a stroke of a pen to discharge student debt, this is taking place right now. So read the rest of this article here. And this is from the Washington Post. That I was citing with the statement from Derek Johnson. At Tulsa event, Biden announces Harris will lead a push for voting protections in response to states' recent ballot restrictions. Now, some people say, oh, well, we want student loan forgiveness now. Oh, we want to just wake up and it's magic wand was waved, all that stuff. So let me ask you a question. What are Republicans proposing for student loan forgiveness? Because either Democrats are going to be in control of the House and the Senate and the White House, or Republicans are going to be in control. So what are Republicans proposing on student loan forgiveness? We just talked about last week how you had 5 Republicans in the Senate putting forth a bill because they're against student loan forgiveness and they want to reduce the power of the president to forgive student loans. So I just find it odd when people come here and make idiotic statements. Okay. Okay, my sister got upwards, sister's African American, got upwards of $90,000 for giving for loans. Yeah, it's taking place right now. This is an example of how elections have consequences. All right, now, we'll deal with this. Okay, we'll deal with the rest of this stuff tomorrow. It's been a long. This weekend went by with a blur, and it's been a very busy day today also because I was at the conference Saturday and Sunday, so it's been a very busy day. So check out that information there. Very quickly, let me squeeze in this piece here on the Bank of England. And this is, let's see here. I need to find that article on the Bank of England. Where is that? I just had it up. Okay, let me pull this one up right here. So there was an article from there was an article from the dailymail.co.uk that I posted on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Posted this last week sometime, or a couple of weeks ago, I think. And we talked about it a little bit here on the show before. And I wanted to deal with it on Sunday show, but we ran out of time. We had a jam-packed show Sunday. This one right here from April 16th, 2022. Bank of England discovers it owned 599 slaves in Grenada in the 1770s, after claiming it was never directly involved in the slave trade. Okay, so a lot of this, the revelation came to light in research after the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. And there's a new exhibition that showcases the bank's link to slavery as it acknowledges its past. So this is from April 16th, April 15th to April 16th, 2022. The Bank of England owned nearly 600 slaves, 599, when it acquired two plantations on the Caribbean island of Grenada or Grenada, I should say, Grena, in Grenada in the 1770s, new research has revealed. The startling fact came to light in a study commissioned after the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. Now an exhibition opening this week, the week of April 16th, 2022, at the bank's headquarters in Threadneedle Street, London, will commemorate the names of each of the 599 African slaves, The Guardian reports, theguardian.co.uk reports. As a trading ground for sugar, coffee, and slaves, Grenada was a place where fortunes were made and lost in the 18th century, affected by Britain's wars with France and American independence. The Bank of England has apologized for its links to slavery, with no fewer than 25 of its governors and directors the owner of African slaves. Now, in June of 2021, the bank stated that although it was never directly involved in the slave trade, it acknowledged the inexcusable actions of some of its leaders and removed 2 busts, and 8 paintings. This was June 2021. Now, the bank will present the findings of its historical analysis in full at the free exhibition. Okay, and here's a picture of the exhibition: Slavery and the Bank. Slavery and the Bank. All right, let's see here. Okay, Slavery and the Bank. A new exhibition opening this week at the Bank of England's headquarters in Threadneedle Street, London, will commemorate the names of each of the 599 slaves it once owned. Now, a spokesperson said, quote, in 2021, the Bank of England commissioned a researcher to explore its historic links to the transatlantic slavery, working with the Bank of England Museum and Archive. This research found that in the 1770s, the bank made loans to a merchant company called Alexander and Sons in the 1770s. When the business defaulted on those loans, the bank came into possession of 2 plantations in Grenada, which had been pledged as security for the loans. Our research has found that 599 enslaved African people lived and worked on those plantations. The bank subsequently sold on the plantations. Some of the UK's biggest high street banks, including Barclays, HSBC, NatWest Group, and Lions, have been examining their historical ties to the transatlantic slave trade, as has Brewer Green King, Greene, Green King. Okay. They have a link there for more information on the exhibit also. All right. So check this out. We're trying to get you some more information on what's going on with that as well. All right. That's from dailymail.co.uk. Look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. Be sure to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And here's the link here for it as well. And the class I teach on Sundays is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay. And we do that Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And that class starts up Sunday, May 8th, okay, with class number 1. All right, we have to get out of here. We'll talk to you.